seventh episode, and today we're going to be talking about some really interesting cases and stories to share with everybody. So, as I was going about to start straight away, I always forget to introduce. So, I'm Teresa, the founder of Holistic Clinic, and over to you, girls.
So I'm Sydney. I'm one of the channelers with Holistic Clinic, currently coming from Japan. I'm traveling at the moment. Usually I'm not in Japan. But yeah, aside from channeling, I also do illustration work and design. Annie!
Hello. Well, I am one of the channelers too. I
Yeah.
am one of the family members here, and I'm also working as a body worker. I am located in Germany, but originally from Canada. So
Beautiful.
Nice.
Great. So today I wanted to bring this episode to share a lot of the cases and the stories that comes up, in the work that we do, mainly because just want to support a lot of our audiences who may be going through some of these experiences. So to help them with their healing, to help them with their spiritual growth, personal healing, spiritual healing. So that's why we have picked some of these stories to share with people. But firstly, I'm going to ask both of you if there were any cases that you worked on that was extremely impressionable for you.
Well, Annie, what
so
about ones that we've worked on together?
definitely one that was about the twin flames. Maybe Teresa can explain for those who don't know or maybe not familiar with the terminology of twin flames, but definitely we dug, is it dug? Yeah, the deep
Yeah.
down into. I remember that it was parents who wanted to connect with didn't have any interaction anymore with their daughter, and I think at that time she moved. She was originally was it like from Singapore? It doesn't matter where she was, but like she moved to another country, and then there was the reason why she absolutely wanted to go there. She was obsessed with the idea of going to that country. I don't know if I can say
Yeah,
the
I think
country.
yeah,
No,
I think she was just going and then didn't really want to come back, it seemed like, and
yeah.
didn't want to talk to them. And so they got worried about that. And also they were wondering about her kind of being sort of around a college age, like, oh, is she going wild or in this other country and we don't know. So yeah, that was like the context of that whole thing.
And the
Um,
relationship with because there was a reason why she went to that country and she met. Correct me if I'm wrong, but she met
a
someone
guy.
online, a guy, yeah,
I remember
someone,
that I remember
yeah,
that case really clearly because that was a case where it was the first time where I met two souls that were twin flames, and having to work on a case that was a twin flame. So very often for people who talk about twin flames and they go through the dark night of the soul and they want to meet with their twin flame, and it's always a very difficult relationship when they meet with the twin flame, especially if they're not ready to meet. So there are, just to give you some background about what a twin flame is, as
thank
Annie
you.
has
Yes.
so twin flames, they are, in some sense, like it's our original soul that was split. So actually, a lot of times when we come as the original soul of one light. And just imagine that we're penetrating the atmosphere of Earth, and then there is a lot of density. And as we all know, when light goes through the density, lights get fragmented.
More
So
like a prism.
like a prism. So the souls, when they go through the the atmosphere, they get fragmented.
Atmosphere.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
Just to help people relate to it.
Yeah.
So when that happens, the first two souls that split, that's the twin flame. So there's a lot of similarity, familiarity, and natural, we love ourselves, right? But understanding that journey for each of the segment or section that's been segmented, they are then to go on to have their own journey. They are there to then have their own experience. So when the twin flames split, there would often be a man, a girl, a woman, right? Or sometimes it's an yin and yang. And it's really the energy that embodied that is the yin and yang, right? So this is what happened to this couple. She went to Australia and she met her twin flame. And naturally, then when that happens, it was something where she really felt a strong calling to do what it takes to keep the twin flame. So the family got worried. That was a very interesting case for me because one, the twin flames were not ready to meet. So it was painful, it was difficult, and they have each of their experiences that they needed to live out, and they were not meant to be in this life together. And it just so happened because the energy of attraction was so strong that they got together. But they still have to go on to experience their own soul's journey. So yeah, that to me was a very interesting thing because very often when we hear about twin flames going through so much pain, having to channel that, experience it, and feel it, the pain is really excruciating when they couldn't be together, and yet the love is so strong for each other. So yeah, that's a good case.
I remember that because when we got the information that no,
yeah,
you can't hear me now.
Oh, I hear you.
Can you hear me, Teresa?
I hear everyone just fine.
I'm just going to continue then. That's funny. I remember I didn't want to reach out.
Can you hear me?
Oh wait.
Yeah, we hear
yes,
you, Teresa, and then YouTube can also hear everybody.
Okay, cool. That's funny. Well, I see my audio level going like this, so it should be okay.
Oh, wait, we're no longer live for some reason. I think it just cut. Oh, wait, there we go.
Yep, sorry.
That's funny.
Yep, it's me, it's not you.
Okay.
Just load of energy. Can you hear me now, Teresa? Okay,
Yeah.
good, loud and clear. I wanted to say that I didn't want to reach the information. I didn't want to say I didn't want to say Australia, but I do. Now that you mention it, it's okay. I wanted to stay confidential, but for the purpose, it's good that we say so. But mostly, you talked about the pain, about the soul, but mostly the reason why we got this case was the pain for the parents. And I do recall what was the pain for them to have no contact anymore. They didn't understand why their daughter, like their they always had like a very good connection and also a relationship with her, and all of a sudden that she cut the cord, and then and they were extremely afraid and feeling insecure because so your daughter is leaving for another country. It's far away, so you cannot. That was a pretty drastic cut, and so I do understand why they reached out to us. And as we started to do the channeling, I was so surprised that when you talk about the pain, when I do channel, one of the things I mostly feel, I don't always see things, but I do feel the emotions. And I remember bursting out and crying. And it was like I couldn't stop crying. And I was like, and here I am, like watching from it outside, like, why am I crying right now? Like, what's the reason why? And then as you, Teresa, ask more and more questions about like, why is it like, why are you crying? Why is it? And then we understood from a deeper level, because yeah, it's really like going not into the rabbit hole, but some sort of like as you're going deeper and you understand from a spiritual level or a soul level, we understood that it was like the soul and also the wasn't the higher self, but cry. No, it was the soul, like wanted to reach out this other part of that. And then we realized that this other part was a twin flame. And that was like for my case, that was my first case for as a twin flame. That was really interesting. And it made sense that we understood how the daughter in this life was acting the way she was. It made everything sense and clear, like, oh, we understand the point of view, like, well, okay, it's not that she wants necessarily not to talk to her parents anymore, but she made a cut and she's deeply in love with this guy, even though like they were a little bit weird, afraid that maybe it could be, using into a relationship or maybe abusive or whatever. But as we dug, and then we understood that they were not ready, especially the boyfriend, I think. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, thank you for bringing up that case. But for me, I think each of us, when we are channeling, we have a different takeaway. For me, that key takeaway was actually the twin flame pain. For me, that was very deep and impressionable. Thank you, Annie. So, Sydney, what do you have that was impressionable for you?
I think for me, the thing that's always impressionable is what happens like before or after these types of cases. And I mean, with that particular case, because we did also spend some time beyond the twin flame aspect and kind of looking at just like other sources of stress in her life. And, it's really interesting to kind of get that perspective on someone's behavior beyond just what the behavior is physically. It's like if someone's drinking, sometimes we can look into that and see like more clearly see the influences on that, whether it's something on their emotions or their thoughts and things like that. I think are always really interesting to channel about. Yeah.
Any cases that you want to bring up?
I think even most recently we did a case where it was more like I want to know what my life is about or what my guides are saying. And then as we looked into that, it was really affirming for the client to have us look and kind of, because for them, what they were experiencing was, I have a lot of interests, I have a lot of things that I want to do. Like, which one of these is correct, or like, what do my guides actually want me to be doing? Who are they? All those sorts of questions. And then when we looked into it, we actually found that on that soul level, on the different parts of the soul, it was because they had this like researcher archetype to them where it was always like, I want to know everything about what's going on Earth. I want to understand the experience of being a human in all of the different ways, and I want to do it all right now in this life. And so that seemed like it was very affirming for them to be like, okay, this feeling that I have and the sort of what I'm hearing and the guidance that I'm getting matches what you're seeing when you're channeling. And that was really cool, I think.
Yeah, that especially if we're wondering like why is it we're different or why we're so unique. And then when we actually channel and we get to the roots of who we were, who we are, who we're meant to be, that gets really like comforting and gives a lot of closure to the clients who are wondering like why, when people should tell me that I should behave this way, And I don't feel the need to do that, especially when, like, I remember the case where we channeled, and this beautiful lady, and she found it so difficult to relate to humans. She
Mm,
she's obviously human, but she just
yes.
couldn't understand the way we think. Like, why is it that we are so different? And it turned out the essence of her was a flower.
I
And
remember that.
yeah, right. And then, she's just naturally attracted to beauty, to flowers, to nature. She just really love it. But, they were like, you can't have an ambition to do your hobby of flower arrangement. Because she's like, flower arrangement, I love it so much. I just want to be a florist. And they were like,
Hmm.
no, you need to do more, And like, this is
Yeah,
what,
like flowers, what?
yeah. And
That
then
was so interesting.
that was
Hmm.
an interesting case because she then also talked about how she really couldn't relate to humans, the things we care about, like, for example, different nationalities, different races, different, like, she was like, why is there segmentations? We are all flowers and we may look different, but we can propagate with any one of us. Right?
Right, like
So
all plants are plants.
yeah, all plants are plants. Why is there, like, a segmentation
Yeah.
of, like,
Yeah, I remember it was specifically like all humans are able to like propagate with each other. So clearly there's no different races. Why do you guys have this concept?
yeah. So
Yeah.
that brings me back to what you're talking about, when the client is confused about why they thinking so different, and then when we go into the channeling and let them know that, hey, your essence, who you were and who you have come forward to offer as a gift, it gives them so much closure and comfort, to know
Mm.
why they're a bit different.
Mm, yeah. And that was fun for me too because, the essence of the client came through and was like, I am a flower. And I'm like, this is really cute. And then when I opened my eyes, she was just there with her tears, like, I really love flowers and just really connecting to it. So that was really, really sweet.
Yeah, that was a recent case as well.
Was she actually there?
Oh
Yeah, she
yes,
was
she's
there.
there.
Oh, I didn't know it was a real case. It was just not online. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
it was
Yeah.
like I was having this happy fun time channeling this like really lovely flower energy, and then I opened my eyes and she was there like, wow, just like I love flowers, and she hadn't mentioned anything about flowers to us beforehand, of course.
Yeah, when she engaged us, because she was very, like, unsure about what she needs to do next, what is her, like, career choice, and what, how she should be planning, because
Mm.
obviously in her context, like, she is flower, that her duty is to bring beauty for us to light up our world, right? But yet, this world is very complex, very complicated, and there's so many things about, like, just bringing joy and beauty is not good enough, right? Like, we want so much more, and she got a bit like, I need to know, what do I need to do with this life? And
Yeah.
after that session, she felt so much peace and acceptance about who she is. And that's what I love about the work that we do. That's what we
Mm-hmm.
offer, to give people a lot of closure.
Mm.
um for myself, there are some other cases that are not so joyful because they have suffered for a long time.
Ah.
And
Mm.
those are cases where they hear voices, right? And
Mhm.
then, or they couldn't find a reason why they feel suicidal and that life is not worth living, or
Oh,
that,
yes, I remember. Ah,
yeah, there are these cases, right? Or they are just always anxious and always depressed and always worried. So there are a lot of such cases that I want to share a little. But because these are so relatable to a lot of people out there, and they're trying to battle these things, these emotions themselves. And here's the thing about such work, right? Like, because the healing that we're doing, there's no physical evidence that you're in pain or that you're hurt. You didn't break a bone. You should just, like, suck it up, and go on and face the world. But these pain are so real to the people who are suffering. So I want to bring up this one is a case where he knows it's illogical to hear voices to tell him to jump down, right? Like he every time he walked past, like if he entered a high building, and then there is like the balcony, the voice will go, "The time to do it is now. You can jump, and then free yourself from all this pain." And he's like, "What is this voice talking about?" And initially, when he was starting to investigate where is this voice coming from, he was like, "The house I'm staying in must be haunted."
Mm.
So it must be a ghost, because like there's so many conversations about like, spirits who want to be rebirthed again. They want to take over somebody else's body, right? So they would then encourage somebody to jump down so then they can take over their body. So there's a lot of such kind of conversations that is going also through his mind, that is there a spirit who wants to take over my body? And so he moved out of his family house, home, right? Because he's like, okay, this place is probably haunted and this ghost just is targeting me. And he moved to stay with somebody who's staying on the ground. There's no high floors, but that depression and the voice continues. And he couldn't stop the voice until I mean, obviously he's gone to psychiatric help. He's gone to temples to pray. He's asked masters to chase the spirits away, until he's like, okay, you know what? I heard about Solistic Clinic, and I like to engage you to tell me what's going on. And when we channeled that voice, it was a voice where he was a warrior before, and he was captured, and he was tortured and tortured and tortured. And when we're talking about these torture, it was like years of torture. They're trying to extract information from him. They keep poking him with hot sticks, and it's like you are no position to die, and you just suffer in pain. So by the time he died, that is the deepest memory. It's just easier to die now. It's just easier to die now. So when we went into that voice, it turned out to be his own voice from remembering the pain from the past life. And until we healed that, and that's when the voice stopped. So I felt very comforted to know that we were able to offer him that solution. And he was logical and sound mind enough to know that no, jumping doesn't make sense. But imagine one day when he's depressed enough and is not happy enough, and the voice is then effective in telling him jump, and he will jump. Right. So that is also one case that was very impressionable for me. Because it's one of those first few cases that trusted the work that we do. So when
that's a very early case you gave there.
It is a very early case. So that case really stuck very deep with me. Yeah.
I feel like we see that a lot, not necessarily to that extreme, but with so many clients, the thing that they come back to us with is that they had this like chronic anxiety or just something bothering them. And then often when we go in and do usually past life work is what it ends up being, then they'll come back and be like, oh, it went away. I feel fine now. Right.
But I do remember that was it like a teenager or a young adult that she says like she didn't have any purpose in life. She didn't understand. And she it was like so critical. Okay, go ahead, Teresa. I think you were about to talk about this case.
No, go ahead. I'm just trying to recall, is that's the case, a suicidal case, or?
Yes, but I didn't want to overlap because I know you were about hearing voice, so I had another also another young,
please
wasn't like a
continue.
teenagers. Yeah. Well, let's continue to the suicidal case, and then we can go back to the hearing the voices. But anyway, sometimes when there's no point of the having suicidal tendencies, but they do feel like life is meaningless. It is an echo that they're hearing anyway. So it's maybe not a voice that they're hearing at home or somewhere following them, but there's this big urge to fulfill because there's a lack of sense. Like there's like this teenager, like, or a young adult, like really truly believe that I don't want to live further. She didn't have really a reason, if I do recall, right, Teresa? Like she was holding with you, and you had to say, wait, we're gonna do some work, and let's see before you do anything else. You have like to really to do like a schedule, like one after the other, and I've been like wondering. So we did some work, and as we found out, like there was an issue with her soul. And was it connected? I like, now you have to help me to recall it exactly, but I'm because I was deeply impressed by this pain that she was feeling and this connection. Because when I say, like, when I channel, sometimes I'm so deeply into the emotion that it's like time and thought stops. So I think in that one, I was still also particularly very cut up into the pain. So you have to be my words to finish this recall. But I do recall that it was like we did reach out and talk to the soul and try to change the purpose of this life now, like giving it a chance. So how did it ended up?
She's still alive.
Yay! It's been a couple of months, isn't it? Like it's been a couple of,
years.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
yeah. So
Time
it was
flies.
a case where she constantly been telling her parents that, you know what, life is, I'm done with it.
Oh, I'm remembering it now.
Yeah, just like I'm done. So thank you so much for loving me. Thank you so much for everything, but I'm done, right? So, so of course, there was a lot of psychiatric help, taking a lot of tranquilizers to calm her down and all that. But she really wasn't feeling nervous or stressed. She just didn't think like I have anything else to offer.
Yeah, she was just done.
Yeah, I'm done, right? So when we went in to want to talk to the soul, it was interesting because the soul was fine, and then it was Archangel Michael came and said that you need to go to 2 past life from now. We're like, okay, Archangel Michael, so we will go and hunt for that life. So it turned out in that life, she was a slave, and whenever she spoke up, because she felt like things could be improved for slaves and all that, she was then beaten up and all that. And eventually, for speaking up too much, she then got beaten to death, right? So she's like, I'm so done. Like I tried
Oh
my
yeah.
best,
Okay.
I tried my best to make a difference. I want to offer some help for the other slaves and all that. And then it's just like I was just beaten to death. So it's like I'm done. I'm done with humans. I'm done. Right. So she then chose to be born into another life where she has chosen to be completely alone, like a hermit, but she was in a farm with animals. And she found a lot of comfort and joy with animals. But again, when there isn't a network, there isn't a purpose of like people you care for and want to do things together, do activities together, create projects together, she doesn't have any of these connection. And eventually she died alone. And she's like, yeah, I'm so done with humans, right? So when she then got born again or incarnate again this life, that message kept repeating in her head. She's like, I'm so done. Like, why am I doing here? I'm done. Right.
Yeah.
So we needed to go in to help bring closure to each and every one of that to her soul, to say that you actually chose to be incarnated again because you wanted to experience different things. You wanted to build on your experience of like giving humanity a different opportunity to learn more about humanity. You learned about being alone. You learned about, speaking up. And now here's an opportunity for you to learn something. So what was nice is that after the session, she then created a bucket list of the things that she wanted to achieve, accomplish for this life. So naturally, then there is an aim and, experiences that she wanted to experience in this life. So that was a pretty interesting case for me.
I think the angels also helped us out for the healing, at the end. And I do recall now, sometimes it's coming back like whoop.
Yeah.
That they mainly said, wasn't it like focus on your senses, like your eyesight, your something like doing with your hands, or all the senses to maybe bring back the inner fiber and light and inner fire again. I can remember now. That was beautiful.
Yeah. And then what is nice is that whenever we do all this work and healing work, we have huge teams supporting us, right? The angels, the guides, the ascended masters, Mother Mary, Jesus, Guan Yin, Shiva, Ganesh, everybody, they are so keen to come and help. And that's what makes this work so beautiful, that we are not alone in this journey, that there is actually a big team out there to actually support and help. Yeah. So the other case, go back to hearing voice. This one was a bit interesting case. It was actually their own higher self, or is it the ego, screaming at them, But it was actually screaming for healing of one of the past life. So this client took a video of her house in Switzerland. And she's like, Teresa, I want you to tell me whether my house is haunted, because every day at 3 a.m. I hear voices telling me, wake up, there's something wrong with your heart. And she couldn't sleep properly because this voice would be so loud and go, wake up, right? And she's like, okay, this voice keeps screaming at me to wake up and there's something wrong with my heart. And so it freaked her out about going home, right? So she filmed her house and showed me, that, do you think my house is haunted? But I couldn't see anything. So then we did a channeling to find out who was actually making this wake up, alarm for her, right?
At 3 a.m.
At 3 a.m., like on the dot. But it turned out that, in our sleep cycle, somehow at 3 a.m. is when it's easiest for that voice to come through. So she then got shocked out of her skin, right? And she jumped out of bed when this voice is so loud. So we went to trace this voice to find out like where this voice came from. It turned out to be her own higher self. And it wanted a healing for one of the past life where it had its heart cut out. And then it's crying and pining for the heart. So naturally, we needed to heal that life where the heart was taken out. I actually wrote about this case in my blog because it's a very interesting case where Neptune came to help. Yeah, King Neptune and of the sea. Because what happened was that this past life, she was a beautiful sea snake. And that's when the heart was so bright and they call it the boat people, which is human on the boat. They call it the boat people who came, captured it, took out the heart, and then threw it away. But this little sea snake was more worried about her heart than her life having to die. So she has been pining for her heart for a long time. And so Neptune have to come to comfort this little snake And the snake was like, no, I want my heart back. And so Neptune have to make a little substitute for this little snake to heal
Hmm.
her. Then ever since then, there's no more voices haunting her to tell her to wake up, wake up. It's time for you to heal your heart. Yeah.
Mm.
So I thought that was also quite a beautiful closure for that client. Then she doesn't hear any more voices.
Yeah.
So what was
There was, sorry, there was another teenager who heard voices also in her room. Wasn't in her room, and we found out that it was actually not necessarily her soul or anything. It was energy in the house. Was not haunted, yes, but it was like energy around her.
Tell me
Like,
more, because I can't remember that
Well,
case.
which one is that?
for once, it's you, Teresa. There was this, so wasn't it like it was the father who wanted to know like what was going on with her daughter? Like she was not feeling well, and she felt a lot of anxiety, and she was hearing not necessarily voices, but like feeling there was like things around her. And we start to look at the soul, we talk to the higher self, and then we realized that it was in a room there was this energy. Was it a
Was this
girl?
the one
Huh?
with the portal in the room?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't like any like missing pieces or linked pieces to other lives or anything. It was really actually physical. Well,
Well,
yeah.
not her directly. Yeah.
No, but her environment.
Yeah.
So that was interesting because there was the house.
There was the house, and I seem to recall also like the makeup of her energy as well was really, really unique, really beautiful, really big. And so with the portal there as well, it was just like super attractive.
Yes. Let's just say that, yeah, she was like a very attractive energy, and
Yeah,
somehow
the
that the
moth
other
and
energies
the flame.
noticed that she was there. Yes.
Mm,
Yeah. So that was the case where I remember now, where because of the portal, she was phasing in and out of the different dimensions. So she needed to
right.
cut herself to feel that she's alive. So she wasn't exactly feeling suicidal, but she wanted and needed to cut herself to feel that she's present,
Like a grounding
like
to be like,
around.
okay, I'm still feeling physical things.
Correct. Yeah. And that's also pretty painful for the parents to watch when the cut was so deep, because she she was phasing in and out of different portals, that she didn't feel she was physically here. And
Oh,
so
it's
she
very
needed to.
wild.
Yeah,
Mm.
we found out why. And it was like obvious that, it was symbolic that she was really trying to step out or to cut off, or, trying to do. So if you don't have access and you don't know it's necessarily energical, there would be a good reason why, some kids or maybe adults are, sorry, my cat wants to come.
Come on,
They
kitty.
arm, yeah, they arm themselves, so yeah, it's hard to understand, like, why would you hurt yourself necessarily? But that was like, oh, okay.
Oh, it's very grounding.
As we do this work, I just noticed that more and more I have like so much more empathy. There's sometimes cases, you don't understand where is it coming from, but when you see from another world, that's the kitty that you're hearing,
Mm,
that that it, yeah, like this work, and like it's easy to understand sometimes from the
mm,
perspective, we get a perspective to really understand why is this going on, because you don't
mm.
understand. What would you could yourself, like I don't necessarily, I don't have all the answers for that, but that as we do that, it makes sense as we do the channeling and the healing work.
Yeah, it's like no matter how wild anything we channel is, at the end of the day, we have a client, they're coming in with a particular experience, a confusing experience, a painful experience, and then being able to go through the work and come out the other side and have them relieved of that, to get closure on their questions, and just be able to like move past whatever has been bothering them. That's really, I think, the main piece that I get out of it, you know,
Yeah.
because I'm like, it doesn't matter how wild it is, as long as you get to have a good time, like as long as the client gets like a good result.
Yeah, it's true. For us, what brings us a lot of comfort is to know that, we are able to support and help the healing journey, and that they could continue to experience life as meant to be, rather than to be suffering in that pain, that depression, when there was no rhyme, no reason for it. I remember, I'm not too sure if either of you were working on this case, but there was it was I find it very brave of this 70-year-old man who contacted me about his wife's depression. And because it was a relapse, she had a depression when she was maybe around her mid-40s, and then now she's in her 70s and she's getting depressed again. And the family's a bit worried whether she's going to do something drastic, right? And it's just not nice. Like, you're so old, this age is for you to enjoy life. Why are you depressed, right? Because you have got grandchildren, and the children are, just finding opportunities to create events for the family, celebrate, go travel. So the sons were then saying that, given that mom's depressed, maybe she should go to psychiatry help. And when they went to the psychiatrist immediately recommended this electrical thing to zap the mind. So I think in that form,
like an EMF or something, or EEG. I don't know my terms.
I'm just too familiar with my terms, but yeah, but the idea is to like reset the emotions and all those things, right? And of course, that's very costly, but it's also very scary, for a 70-year-old, to think that, she doesn't want to do this. So then the other way,
brain electrodes. Ooh.
yeah, so that's scary for a 70-year-old. And then the other alternative then is to take a lot of tranquilizers, or psychiatric medication to support her and help her through her day, right? Because when you are depressed, it means that you want to sleep a lot, you don't want to get up, right? You don't no zest in life, and there's no reason to live, and it's getting to be quite dangerous. So the husband then contacted me because he's really at his wit's end, right? For loving his wife and loving his family, he really do not know how else to approach this. So when we started channeling, it turned out that she had a life where she lost her children in a fire, and she couldn't get over the self-blame for losing three children, who are so young, helpless, burnt to death because of her allowing the fire to get too out of control. So what triggered that memory for her was that the sons have got, like, she has grandchildren, the sons have children, and they wanted her to look after the kids. And so as part of that duty in terms of looking after the kids, she needed to cook for the kids. So there's fire, and then there's children, and all that came crashing back. That memory of her losing children in the fire all came crashing back. And but of course she'd have no memory of that life, right?
Right, no conscious memory of it.
Yeah, no conscious memory, but it's just remembering the pain and the fear of losing her kids again. So it makes sense, like when her children were growing up, she was depressed, right? And then her kids then grown up, and then she was good. And then the relapse came about because she was then asked if she wants to look after the grandchildren. Now, as a grandparent, no grandparents will say that I don't want to look after your grandkids. Every grandparent dotes on their grandchildren. So it was illogical to her, like why was she feeling so stressed about looking after grandkids? And then after that healing session, that really got better, really got better. They didn't have to go through all that painful process with the psychiatric treatment. And the last I heard from the husband is that she has cut down on her medication, her depression medication, and she seems to be quite, excited about planning trips and taking trips with the family and all those things. So that was also quite a good experience for me. But for me, that what my key takeaway is that, like, one, the pain is really not necessary if we have access to that information. It's easy to get closure. But I was really impressed with the husband at 70, so willing to explore alternate ways of healing and approach, despite, that, there may be challenges in their religious belief and, all that. So yeah. And I remembered how he's like, I couldn't persuade my sons to agree for me to engage you, so this will be our little secret.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, so that one was really cute. But that is also another case with depression. Yeah. I had another case. I'm not too sure if any of you worked on this one, but it was a case about this European lady who felt very called to come to Asia or Asia Pacific. And she felt that it was a spiritual awakening.
Interesting. I don't think I've worked on that one.
I think I can't. I'm not sure.
So this was a case where she thought it was a spiritual awakening, but it brought her more pain, and that she was on the brink of being suicidal, because it's so painful. And she's like, if this is spiritual awakening, I don't want it. So what happened was that in that awakening, her so-called awakening, she heard voices, and that the voices keep telling her to come to a country in Asia Pacific. And she has no relatives there, no friends there, no reason to be there, but she thought it was a spiritual awakening and there is a purpose for her to go to that country. And so she sold everything in Europe and moved, but there was no reason to be there. And she then thought, maybe I have to find a purpose and all that. So she tried to connect with spiritual groups and all that, right? But there was nobody to really give her a true answer about why she's there, right? So she's gone for readings, and she said that I hear these voices to tell me to come to this country, and I'm here, but I need to know what's next, right? So she's thinking that the clues will drop as she arrived in the country. So she gone for a lot of spiritual gatherings, all the like-minded people, and nobody could really give her an answer. They hinted that, oh, maybe you're meant to be a savior or something, but there's no inroads to where she can discover whether she's a savior. So she was really becoming more and more desperate because she has no money, no reason to be there, no support, right? And finally, she then contacted me to say that I really need help, because she's really at the brink of being suicidal. When we went in to this soul, right? Of course, immediately the soul saying, I'm very stressed about money, and all that. Then I said that I just want to get to the crux of things, is that you are now here. You moved from Europe to this country. May I know why? And immediately when I mentioned this country, the soul went, oh my God, no, 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 don't talk about this country. Why am I here? Why am I here? And the hands was there. And then the story came that she was choked to death while she was being raped in that country.
Oh,
In that
okay.
past life. right? And so the soul is like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And it just freaked out, just completely freaked out, right? And then I'm like, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. Who raped you and why, right? And why choked to death? And it turned out to be just random two boys or young men who was having a bet with each other. Whoever lost the bet will then rape the next girl who walked past.
Oy, oy.
Right? And so she happened to walk past, and then she was then targeted. And she remembered the faces, and she remembered the guy who was laughing, and she put a curse on that guy.
Ooh.
And what happened was that because of that curse, the guy cannot continue to the next life, and he was stuck in that land for many, many, many years. And for many years, this soul of this guy, so it wasn't the rapist, it was the guy who came up with the idea that if you lost the bet, you know, so it was the guy who was laughing because he didn't lose the bet, and he was just laughing, watching what has happened, and eventually she was choked to death, and they were just laughing about it, right? So you can imagine that this were a time where life was a bit, cheap, where they didn't treasure life as much at the time. And so she put a curse on him, and he was not able to leave that land. He was stuck in that land for many, many years. And he has been calling out to her to come back, to release him from this curse. So she keep hearing this voice, come here, come here, come to me, because he wants to be released of this curse. Yeah. So I thought that was a very, very interesting case.
Very hard too. I mean, must have been like very difficult also for all channelers to going through that.
Yeah, and it was also painful for her going through this, right? Because in real life, she's also suffering, right? The stress of having no money, no connection, no support. What is doing in this foreign land, foreign country? Then it just turned out to be that it was something to do with so long ago, the trauma between the two souls. Yeah.
Wow.
Also, yeah, none of you worked on this case.
No, definitely that one you can't forget.
That I would remember.
I mean, you talk about it and I feel the energy again as like, well, not again, but I feel like, okay.
Yeah, so that was difficult. So in the end, of course, it was resolved in terms of like the agreement was to release the curse, because it's not going to be healthy if she kept him there and not release the curse. She would just continue to hear him, right? Can you imagine?
It's like a double curse.
Yeah, right. And then they have to learn to make peace with it, and ask for forgiveness, and all that. So that was quite difficult, because as a woman, I would be like, it would be so hard to forgive. But
but it's not really like, it's like not her in this life, thankfully, that needs to try to do that.
But even when we read history, right, if we heard a woman being choked to death because she's been raped and choked to death, it's like that. It's still so hard, as a woman listening.
There's a visceral response to the whole thing.
Yeah, but in the end, of course, the two souls have to learn to resolve it, forgive each other or something. But of course, in real life, she still have to go through that challenge of how to get herself out of this rut. So while at that spiritual level, we could come in to support and help, in real life, she has to go through the challenges herself. Yeah. So any interesting, uplifting story before we end for the night?
Oh, yes, I don't want to end on that note. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so
I do
intense,
have
Teresa.
one. I do have one, but we were not
Yeah.
going to go dig into the details, but definitely personal issue.
Mm-hmm.
I felt it was me in February, and then we realized, I realized that, I was having some, my heartbeat was skipping, and
Mm-hmm.
a beat, and it was like that for like almost a week. And I told Teresa, like, oh yeah, by the way, I thought it was like me working too much, or like, and then thanks to Teresa, he's like, we're gonna check out energetically how it was. And turned out there was something, really trying to reach out my heart.
Mm.
And we did a comment, and there was a lot of channelers, but sometimes we do meet, but we also need some healings. We're also
We do
humans.
each other. We do heal each other. Mm-hmm.
And at first it was funny because I do recall that um you did ask Teresa, to my higher self, like, what was going on with me? Like, why am I feeling this physically? And the higher self's like, no, I'm okay. I'm in charge. I have everything under control. Like, I don't need help. Then realize, like, yes, you do. You do need some help. So it's like, for me, like, listening to all the other channelers, like, you do have to have some kind of what's the English word for, like, so accepting. I'm so sorry. Sometimes I think German, French, and English in the same time, so I just have the
Yeah.
German. Demut is like when you need to accept humbly. Yeah, I have to be humble to let the work be done, even though sometimes you do think you're okay with that. So actually, I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking I don't need help, and I was thinking like exactly like my higher self. I don't need help. This is nothing. This will go away. But then, as you guys were looking close up, like closer, we're like, no, you do need some healing energy. And what was beautiful, it was like something very tangible. So definitely, couple of days after, like when you feel like your heart is skipping a bit, and you're searching for air at that time, or it's like it's a little bit like you
Mm.
feel stressed, like it's really like your body telling you is like, be here now, and like take a moment. And this was happening every 2 hours. And after the sessions, I can't recall that it was diminishing. It was not one day to the other, but after that, within a week, it was gone. And I felt like when I realized, like, wow, okay, humbly, you need help. And I'm so grateful that you guys did this work on me.
Yay.
That
Oh,
was
I have a very cute short thing, which was I once casually channeled because my partner and I needed to buy someone a birthday cake, and we didn't know what flavor to get them. We had no idea what they liked. And so my partner was like, "Can you channel it? Can you just tell us which flavor to get?" At first I was like, "No, why?" And then I thought, but also why not? And so I went in and I got this flash of like of all the cake options we were looking at, it was like mango, pick the mango cake. And so I said, "Okay, pick the mango cake." And then later on in the day, we got a message from the person after they'd received the cake saying, "Oh, thank you. I really love mango." So there you go. There's another like little funny story there.
Yeah, I do love like when we channel and then how we are able to relate this spiritual world to the real life and they actually
Yes.
have some direct impact, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
key takeaways.
I think if someone is like dealing with a issue, like something like they're emotionally or mentally struggling with something, and we do like what we can, right? We do the work that we can by ourselves or with support from maybe psychiatrists or doctors or whoever it may be. And if it's bothering you and it's difficult, I think it's important not to blame ourselves and to understand that, sometimes it's not even about your experiences in this life, and it can come from other different energies that are affecting us too. So yeah, sometimes it's a little bit more complicated, unfortunately. But hopefully with us sharing these stories, this gives you more of an understanding of like the myriad of things that we're actually experiencing beyond what we're consciously aware of. And you don't be too hard on yourself.
So true, so true. Yeah. Annie?
Takeaway key, healing is for everyone, any cases, and a deeper, it doesn't have to be very deeper. Like there's things that are very tangibles, but I do feel like also and this is my next step where I want to step in also and this healing work also for myself and for other relationships, is that if sometimes you cannot do the work, it's in a relationship and you cannot interfere, or you cannot do working on the healing work helps to work at another level, even though you cannot do it face to face with someone, or even though these people are still alive, sometimes. And that's a takeaway for me. I remembered, like, just very quickly, this woman with her ex-husband, like she couldn't do the work face to face. He was not, there was like a fence, but it was for her, the healing work with us was her option and opportunity to do the work, also for this kind of closure and peace for her, not for her, but for her kids. So it was like, it's always positive, because there's always, yeah, healing is everything, isn't it? Like if you bring more light, feels good, when you have pain, it's, and it's, necessarily you don't want to live a life with only pain. So if this, might be an option for you to take you haven't thought maybe of that, but to ask for help in that way, that modality, I would say, it is accessible for everyone.
That's beautiful. For me, the reason why I created this episode today, I think I spoke about it from the very beginning, is to really share these stories to let people know that they're not alone. Like, it may be a story that you are familiar with because you're going through it yourself. And that, sometimes we blame ourselves a lot, or the parents blame themselves a lot, like, especially when the parents contact us to heal their children. The number one thing the parents always question is that, did I do something wrong? Did I not provide the right guidance, or the right environment, or did the right thing to support and help my child? Why is my child suffering so much? And this is also to just let all of people who are going through these unexplained pain, no closure, and all that. Maybe there is something, that you're not alone, and we can be here to support you in this. Yeah. So with that, I hope that this was fun and interesting, because we have so many more other interesting stories. We just picked the ones that are really at the tip of the iceberg.
Right. We don't want to get too crazy tonight.
Yeah, we don't want to get too crazy, because there are some really crazy experiences we went through. But yeah, so hoping that this will just help the audience with your own personal growth journey, your spiritual healing journey, and that you found this to be extremely valuable. And to the point of what Annie was talking about in terms of the soul, in terms of relationships and all that, I would recommend you look at episode 6, where we talk about soul contracts, and to give you that perspective about like why there are certain things that you feel that you needed to do because somebody has signed up to be your tough teacher, to make things a bit difficult for you, just so that you appreciate yourself a lot more. So with that, have a wonderful evening, everybody, and good night, and we'll see you in episode 8.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I have stopped